Hello, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the third edition of this series. It's my pleasure to present you Tiago Loureiro. He has a very interesting curriculum, which he will describe better than I could. He's a hacker, a game developer. He also works for the competition, so I thank him a lot for being here. Okay, I hope he doesn't steal any of our students. So yeah, I'll give you the floor.
Hope I'm not canned as well. So, hi everyone. My name is Tiago. Like Manuel already explained. In the other presentation, I see people always coming from there, so I thought it was a stage or something, and I'm really disappointed. But I'm not able to make a big entry. So, from 0 to 11 million daily active users. It's really nice to be the third one because I don't have to explain what is a daily active user. So I take it that you've been, oh, I see that I have. Okay, oh, okay. I'll get to that later on. What I'm trying to explain here through my talk, it's not going to be something very technical because you can read books about it, you can Google technical stuff. What I really want to show you is something that some people call firewalking, which is basically learning from other person's experiences and trying not to commit the same mistakes, because I'm really good at making bad decisions. And I want to be that person who makes those bad decisions so that you don't have to make them yourselves and you can learn from me. So a lot of this stuff, I did it because I love taking chances. I love getting out of my comfort zone. It's hard sometimes, but as you've probably seen some images out there, it's where the magic happens. And this is my experience. So don't take this for granted. Take everything I'll say with a grain of salt. Never believe me. Never take anything I say for granted. And well, hope you enjoyed. And for starters, who's this man? Oh, come on. Who here wants to be a game designer? No one. Nice. You're ruining my show. So this gentleman here is Mr. Joseph Campbell. And he did a lot of studies in mythology, comparative religion, and why do we care? He came up with a concept named the monomyth, which is basically steps on a story, on a narrative, that seem to happen worldwide in every culture, in many stories, and something that you can find from Homer's epic, the Iliad or the Odyssey, and also in Star Wars. I won't go much in depth into that, so you can look for it yourselves, but I will adapt it to my journey that eventually led me here. So in a nutshell, this is the hero's journey. This is the known world and the unknown world. So we basically start off like hobbits on a call to adventure. We are on our homes and some trigger makes us want to wander around and see what's happening. Eventually there's this supernatural aid, something that comes out of the non-ordinary existence that helps us to, I don't know, acts like a catalyst, basically. And we have to cross a boundary somewhere so that we can start our transformation. And that's the precise moment where we start the hero's journey. And then there are some mentors, people who help us, a lot of challenges, temptations, and we will fail in something. because if we are not failing, we are doing it wrong. Samuel Beckett said, we need to fail more and fail better. So I'm a strong apologist, because failing is learning. If you look at many of the entrepreneurial rock stars worldwide, most of them, they failed a lot. And maybe that's because they were not aware of the things they were trying to do, or, well, they weren't in the right moment at the right time. And eventually, those learning experiences allowed them to thrive and prosper on their paths. So when we really hit rock bottom, then revelation strikes. And transformation, atonement, and the return of the king, the return of whatever, back to our known ordinary world. So this is it in a nutshell. And now that you know what the monomyth is and the hero's journey and Joseph Campbell, I'm going to start by the beginning. Frank Herbert on Dune says, the beginning is a very delicate time. And it's also very important to start in the beginning, because if we were to start in the middle will become the beginning. So, yeah. Well, this is me. Well, it's not me, but I couldn't find a picture of myself at this age. But, well, I have legendary Photoshop skills, so I think uncanny resemblance, right? Okay, this is me probably at age 6. I had my first computer, which was a Texas Instruments 9948. I was the only guy in Portugal probably that had that computer, which was awful, because what's a computer for? Come on, what? Connecting. This was in 80 or something. Spreadsheets, come on. I was 7, 6. Games, yeah, finally. So computers are for games. Everything else is rubbish. No, just kidding. But yeah, computers are for games. So I basically use my computers to play games. And since I was the only guy with that same computer, I was very frustrated, because my friends were all getting Spectrums, and I don't know what else was the big thing back then. I never had a Commodore, but I had no one to trade games. So, and that computer came with a cartridge slot. So all the games came in cartridges, which were, I think, somewhat expensive, because I never got more. And what I tried to do was get magazines that, well, maybe 10% of the magazines had a program for my computer, but that problem per se led me to try to learn how programs were made, how games were made. And eventually I started to understand some basic logical reasoning, how code was actually made for video games. And I wrote my first piece of code back then, which did not compile. I don't know why, but it was a piece of code, and I probably have that sheet somewhere. And what this led me to do was to investigate more about computers. So computers started to be my life, because I could play games in them. And like every other kid in the 80s, there wasn't much things to do. And you can probably imagine I was one of those introvert guys who spent a lot of the time with a computer. I didn't go out much. I was not allowed to go out to play outside for some reason. So I stayed a lot of time indoors. So computers, books, movies, and then something that really blew my mind, role-playing games. Like getting that red box for the first time and opening it, and I was like, whoa. books can do this? So this was my world back then. And okay, I may have missed some really important stuff while growing up, like going outside, playing football, and meeting girls. Yeah, I was the stereotypical nerd. Still am, somewhat. And what this allowed me was to explore my imagination. I started writing stories. And I started to combine both things. I started writing stories for the games that I was making. Obviously, those games were for myself alone. No internet, no BBS. I had no access to BBS back then, and probably no one here knows what the BBS is. Okay. Yay. Someone knows what the BBS is. Like, imagine back in the days before internet and porn everywhere, you could use your phone to dial to a few selected computers where people would drop files and leave messages and all that, hence the bulletin board system. And those were the only connectivity options that we had back then. So when I was growing up, obviously, like many of my generation, we went to school. And I was thinking, yeah, I'd love to do something creative. Computers, yeah, computers, well, movies, that's a bit far off, but something with computers and narratives and stories and telling stories and computers again. And so that was my thing. So I started channeling my my path at school towards computer science, which was a pain in the ass because there were no computer science specific curricular units, or whatever we called it back then, in the schools that I went. So, for instance, I went to a school where I enrolled for, there was something called computer science. I enrolled for that, and they put me on something like arts and crafts with knitting. Yeah, I know how to knit. So yeah, no girls, sorry. Still no girls. So I started that path, and that eventually led me to think that, okay, this whole computer thing I really love this, but I'm in Portugal, and it's going to be really hard to actually be in something that I like, because everyone I saw working with computers, they were either in banks or doing like very gray and boring stuff that I didn't want to do. So again, with all the things that I did back then, watching movies, I discovered, oh, there's something called psychology. And this was because of a movie. I started to imagine myself going through a path in psychology. I still remember, I don't know the name of the movie that I watched, but they had some psychology students who were majoring in occult sciences. So for me, that was, oh, okay, yeah, I really want this because this is really hot. And as you can imagine, psychology has girls. So for me back then, it was really something that I would try to do and to meet girls. And again, back to our hero's journey. I was probably here when the magic began to happen. So I'm still in the beginning. I'm in the beginning of my path on my known world, trying to see what I like, trying to see what I can do, and I'm exploring. But I'm still on that same path that everyone thought I would go, and should not wander away from the path, you know, everything that people say about that. It was me. So I was basically growing up, and then imagine me like 10 years later, teenager. So what does a teenager who likes Dungeons and Dragons and computers do? Black metal. I'm this guy. So these are my friends and me having a blast. This was me actually growing up. So I was a lot into extreme music, did computer games, read a lot, I wrote a lot back then as well. And then something clicked, and I said, okay, I love role-playing games a lot. And there aren't many places to be with role-playing games geeks like me. So why not create one? So my first company, I started when I was 17. Well, it's not this one, but then again, I don't have a picture, but you can probably imagine something like this, which in reality has nothing to do with what we built. So me and 2 other friends, we started a company called ETAC, where we would basically import tabletop role-playing games, board games, books, and all that, and resell. We didn't have a store because we were kids. We were also on a band, so we spent all our money in instruments and recording and all that, which left us with not much money to invest on a shop, physical shop. But then we still had a lot of success because since we didn't have a shop, we were able to have really nice margins that everyone liked. So we started sort of a mail order system. Again, this is pre-internet, like 100 years ago. And we started to sell role-playing games. And it was my first, it was probably the first time that I really thought that, wow, I can really do something by myself. And something that I love. And then it didn't happen. We were kids, you know, a lot of teenage angst in the middle, and eventually it didn't work out. We all went in separate ways. I didn't, probably a couple of years later, I tried to start another role-playing game distributor, but I was working full-time, and I was really tired because I started working when I was 17 again, because, well, basically I had to, and I didn't have much free time. So I was basically like this. I was having a full-time job, which eventually I left for another full-time job where I could code more. I started to program decision support systems for a lot of major train railway operators in Northern Europe, which is good, but it was really boring. The creative margin was practically null, well, I was just lying there until one day I thought, what if I could make my own games? I'm gonna start making a game. I'm gonna make a AAA game with no money, with my friends who don't have any money. Bear with me, this was 2003 or 4, so it was allowed back then. And obviously, yeah, it didn't work out. So it was a really nice game. I really hope to do something similar one of these days, but no, didn't work out. And then the anger. How can it not work out? What went wrong? So I made this checklist of all the things that were I thought were not working out, and I thought, okay, now I'm going to try and get an experienced person from all over the world and try to make not a AAA, but a MMORPG. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to make a bigger and better game. What happened? Nothing. So it didn't happen because, again, it was too big for not only the team, but also for the experience I have. So when we go back to our hero's journey, I was starting this moment here, the threshold, the beginning of transformation. But the horrible thing was that I never got a mentor nor a helper, so I got to screw up a lot. And I decided, okay, this is not working. My dull job of programming things for trains is sucking the life out of me. So I'm gonna try to do something else. And I really want to start my own company to do games. I have no idea how to do it, but I'm gonna do it. And that was my first big jump here into the unknown world. I still remember being in an office, a small office. We were 3 back then, working full time. And I received a call from a friend who said, oh, I have this guy, he's probably a nice project lead. So he will call you and, well, good luck. Okay, after my friend, hang on, the other guy called me. He was like, oh yeah, we're actually looking for someone who knows how to develop games in J2ME. This was pre-smartphone era, so Nokia, Java 2 Millennial Edition, crazy. So do you guys have experience in that? Yeah, we do. Okay, so this is the project. Okay, so let's send us a project plan and budget, and I think we can work the things out. Okay, cool, thanks. Guys, anyone knows J2ME? So I actually took the first job without actually knowing what the hell I was getting into. Well, but fortunately, being a programmer helps when you have to program. And when you know how to program in one paradigm, you probably can shift to different syntaxes and without much hindrance. So I started doing that, and it was a big title. This was in 2008, and I was developing a mobile companion for the FIFA Euro Championship. Well, not for FIFA, but for someone here locally who was doing something in, well, back then it had more than 80,000 downloads, which was amazing back then. So it was my real first experience, and I got paid for doing it. And I was like, whoa, this really works. Really good at it. Yeah, so I started to get cocky, which is not good. And I'll tell you why later on. And so back then that there was this whole pseudo-entrepreneurial attempt to create a culture, but things were being done really wrong. But I didn't know that at the time. So I like to think that I'm a nice guy, and I like to believe other persons are nice persons as well. So I kind of trying to find my mentors and helpers, and people tell me, no, you should try and do some VC and all that. And so I began to thought, yeah, let's go corporate, yeah, make money, living the dream with money. So I sort of got into an investment round and started a startup. But it wasn't like this. This looks somewhat pretty, all the nice colors, people doing things with Macs. And, well, it was nothing like this. It was like 3 guys crammed in a room, very hot. In the summer, it was horrible. And we had no idea what we were doing. And especially me, I had no idea what I was doing. So I was basically reacting instead of being proactive. Never do that. Especially if you're running your own business. You have to lead your own business. You have to lead your own path. Never be on the reactive side exclusively. Remember where we are? Going down into the unknown with a lot of challenges and temptations. Oh yeah, and I got a lot of temptations. It was my first real gig with the whole running a company thing. There were a few projects that were successful, and we were starting to make money. So there came all these temptations to, well, let's invest in this, invest in that. We didn't actually have a plan, so we were going here, doing bits of this and that. And yeah, didn't work out. It didn't work out because there was no vision. There was no culture, there was no vision, there was no path that we were treading on consciously. And well, eventually it led to this. And with this was a big fall into the abyss, if you remember the hero's journey. And well, when you fall into the abyss, it can be really hard sometimes. And for me, it was a very stressful moment in my life. It was very hard to deal with that, not only because of financial issues, but also because I failed. I had no idea that I was able to fail at this. I had nothing else to lean on. All the things that I had built up till that point had all crumbled down, and I was clueless what I had to do. And I still needed to pay bills, get money for food. So I started again because I hit rock bottom back then. So I started to get up and see what can I do? I can do. And the only reality that I knew back then was the corporate world. So I went back to the corporate world and say, hey, I need a job, and I started to going through all my connections, the ones that I had made previously to that. And fortunately, again, I made some good connections. That was one of the things that I did right, was to grab hold of people that really I could learn from, and that I could somewhat rely on to help me on my path. And I got some help. Some people offered me jobs, and then I got hired to work on a big video games company, which was like a startup again. So it was like full circle. Like, well, not full circle, but I was going in circles, iterations. And had I known back then what I know now, I would have realized that I hadn't learned my lesson, and that the universe was trying to teach me something. That, okay, you did that, so you want a second chance? Okay, here you go. And it felt like just the same, only with big offices and a lot of resources. And here comes the title for my talk. So if we look back at what I told you, I started from nothing, so from zero users. I published games that probably no one has played. And in that company, we started to live mostly out of projects, which sometimes weren't games, but we needed that. We needed the money to actually put food on our table. So it was really stressful to look back and see, well, what did I build? What can I take out of this? And I was clueless to that. I couldn't answer that myself. And that eventually became a problem because I was going on the same path again. The thing is, I was on a more secure position, like there was no scarcity of projects, there were a lot of projects. I actually got hired to do a game that nowadays has 11 million daily active users. I learned a lot in that process. I learned how to run teams in multiple countries, in different continents, how to migrate a game that has 40,000, had 40,000 concurrent users at peak into mobile, which was something completely new to me because I had done mobile. I had done small games in mobile, but never on this massive scale. And knowing about all the DevOps challenges, all the community challenges, because we were also reskinning and restyling the game, dealing with expectations, basically doing everything again to make a game that was not new, but it was new on that medium, and creating all the platform and the structure that it could accommodate that game. So I learned a lot in my process on that company. But I started to feel that it was not working. Something was not working. It was not working for me. And eventually, well, things didn't work. And to a point where I almost went back here again. Because, damn, again? Failing again? And this one was easy. I was not starting a company. I was just working there, but no. And I started to realize that the reasons why I kept going in these circles was I was being led again. I was not leading. I was not following the things that I wanted to do. I was making the wrong questions. I was trying to find what can I get instead of thinking what can I do. And I started to get some glimpses out of this very precious piece of information. And then I thought, okay, so I did this twice, and I tried to do something reactively, didn't work. I tried to do something because it was somewhat comfortable in terms of, well, I had a paycheck every month, but that didn't work as well. So this time I'm going to try something different. I'm going to try to do something that I love. So I went full indie. And this was somewhat like what I spent the next year on. This is actually not an indie company. I will not tell you what company this is, but this is actually a big games company. But they're all very cramped. And if you notice the Herman Miller chairs, you can tell these guys are not indies. This is more than minimum wage in Portugal. So I met some persons who have a great talent and great ideas, and I started to realize, okay, we can make a living out of this. So let's start a company and make a game that we love. And then, again, startup life. But now it was more like this. It was prettier. We were all very artsy-fartsy, designer-ish things. And yeah, with the exception that we weren't so many. Nor did we have so many greens on our tables, but it was better. So I was getting better at starting things. And I actually did something that I considered really blind luck, which was go through the traditional way of publishing a game, which is you have an idea, you go to a publisher gives you money, and you make the game. This doesn't happen anywhere. And I was able to make it, and I was like, whoa, what happened here? I can probably track that to a few points of like networking. I already had a significant track record in my career, some published titles that were critically acclaimed. But still, it doesn't happen. And I don't think it will ever happen again to anyone, but that's just my impression. And in terms of the whole publisher paying thing, it really worked. It was not like, oh, you know, guys, the next milestone, we don't actually have money, you cannot pay. No, no, everything worked. Yeah. So now, back to our chart. I'm starting my transformation process. I'm starting to learn that failing is not a problem. Failing is learning. Failing is what gets me better at being myself and the things that I love to do. And it was through those failings, through going through this abyss, that I was able to be reborn again with a new mindset that led me to do the things that I loved. What happens now? So, who here thinks it worked? Raise your hand. Did it work, this project? Was it good for me? The last one, the indie adventure? Okay. Yeah, everyone thinks it happened, but no. It didn't. I know a few reasons. The others are just like life. It came to a point that I was no longer having fun. And that should have raised an alarm flag. Because there were a lot of things happening there that I thought, okay, this is not how I imagined it. But I thought, okay, this is probably part of the path. I still need to get there a little bit more before I can actually thrive again. But no. We should always try to be happy every day. This is not something new. I didn't make up this, but if I wake up too many days in a row, and I look myself in the mirror and say, do I really need to go there today as well? Then it's not worth it. Screw it. Money, it doesn't matter how much that mirror costs. If you cannot look yourself in it, it's not worth it. And believe me, money is the least of your worries. And again, so here I am. Going from transformation almost to atonement. And this is where I am right now. Ever since that last project, I thought, no, right now, I'm doing things my way, Tiago's way. And I started to take time for myself. Choose myself first. I started taking more time to myself, saying no to things, to people. I really need that meeting. No, I won't go to that meeting. And right now, I'm one of those persons who doesn't do meetings. I hate meetings because 90% of meetings are a waste of time and are like something that people could have sent an email. And I started to make my own rules. Mornings are for workouts and meditation, and there is always at least one day in the week that I don't work, that I go hiking or I don't know, do weird stuff, learning new things. I try to learn a new thing every day, which is very hard, and I cannot do that. But that leads me to learning a new thing every year, and that is good. I now have more time to spend with the people that I love, with the people that are near me, and eventually, I'm probably getting lucky, but I'm getting a lot of referrals. People are coming to me, oh, we need this and that. And curiously, I'm being paid now to do the work that I tried to pitch in 2011 and no one understood. Like AR, I was doing AR in 2011, and people were like, oh, what does that do? This is yours, but what can I do with this? Oh, I don't want to pay for it. But now since everyone else is paying it, everyone wants AR and VR. Well, things happen. I don't know what I'm going to do next. I've been offered recently, again, the temptation, the chance to open a game studio in Portugal. I didn't have to put my own money on it. And I said, it's not going to happen now. You know why? Because it didn't feel right. And one of the things, if I have in fact learned something, was listen to my inner gut and starting to really cherish all the things that I have learned and be grateful for that. So again, I'm here and the grass is green. Yeah, today the grass is green. This is, I mean, this is not like a perfect life or anything. I still have to deal with my financial issues from the past. But nowadays, I learn somewhat how to live with those. And I don't worry much. Because if I cannot solve something right now, there's no point in me worrying about it. So for me, yeah, I can say that the grass is green, and this looks like just one of the parks that I go almost every morning to work out. And I could never have done that on a regular 9-to-5 job. So here's me. And if you want to know something about my epic journey, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm more responsive on Twitter than any other social media channel. So feel free to add me. And well, thank you. I'd like to take a picture. I'll Photoshop later to put more people in the audience. But say cheese, everyone. Or halloumi. That's a cheese in Cyprus. Someone will get this.
So thank you a lot.
Okay,
Tiago.
Thank you.
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, now is the time. Or forever hold your silence.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you think someone's first project, big project, is always guaranteed to fail in some way?
No. There's a big percentage it will, but it's not guaranteed. Some, like that girl that runs Facebook, curly head girl, Mark something. Well, they Facebook really struck big, and it was one of the first projects. So people sometimes get lucky. Whereas companies like Rovio, before Angry Birds, do you know how many games they launched? Angry Birds was number 50. So yeah, they were all over the place.
But they learn more if they fail, for sure.
Well, they have the chance to learn more. Learning is optional. It's like there's one thing that you learn in some more holistic cultures, which is pain is guaranteed, suffering is optional. So there are a lot of things you can do, and if you're striving and or things that are not going very well, it's how you handle them that makes the whole difference. And that's the big question. How do we do that? Well, I don't know. I sometimes get lucky, sometimes I don't. No technical questions?
Were both of your startups hello. Were both of your startups self-funded?
Yes.
Funded? Yeah. Okay. All right.
Well, second one was well, we got publisher money, but still needed to start somewhere.
Thank you.
Oh, and by the way, an advice on that. Before you start taking loans or going through people from financial markets to ask money, try not doing that first. Ask your friends and family and relatives, and well, because unless you're really sure that it will work out, most of the time it's not worth it, and you can get into trouble. And then you have all the pressure that has nothing to do with what you do and what you want with what you want to do, taking all your time. So always be careful about that.
What are you doing with AR right now? Well, which headset are you using?
Which?
Headset are you using?
Samsung Gear VR. that's
So
actually
that's VR. Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually a start. I can share. Back in '94, I think, or '93, we had this computer fair, which was called Infor way before Expo 98. And I remember going to one of those shows, and Creative Labs were premiering their VR helmet, which is something like this big, like Doc Emmett Brown's on Back to the Future mind reading thing. And I tried it with Dark Forces. Yeah, like AAA. And I was like, okay, yeah. I wouldn't get this for myself, but okay. And a couple of years ago, I was into, I was on, it was in Nordic Game in Malmö in Sweden. And I tried for the first time the Oculus via Oculus Rift DK2. I was really excited, so I tried to sit there and put the goggles on, and I was like, really? It wasn't much different. So for me, up until now, VR was just a fad, and I wasn't really interested in working in VR. But then I tried the Gear VR, and I was like, oh, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Because I can pick up a phone, insert it on a $100 gear, and actually do some really nice and cool VR stuff. Okay, granted, right now you still need a very expensive phone, but that's only because the product has been recently launched, and Mr. Carmack didn't want users to come up of that with a really lousy experience. So it's only available for top-tier Samsung phones. But I'm sure that eventually it will be available to mid-range phones. And that's where I see VR going. But I could be wrong. I have been known for being wrong.
If you don't mind answering, what do you think were some of the core issues that caused those startups to fail? Were they financial problems, team clashing opinions in teams? What do you think were the reasons?
But my own or general?
Startups, what do you think were those you mentioned, for example? What do you think were the core issues?
Well, there are a few things that I can say that are somewhat horizontal to every startup. Culture, company culture. There's a line that says, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And culture is everything. If you don't have an identity, a DNA that you can say, this is what my company looks like. This is what we do. We all dress half white, half black. This is us. Yeah, we're awesome. Or some other things. We eat with our hands. I don't know. Developing a company culture that can help you with your work, that's crucial. And keeping up with that, it's mandatory. And most of startups fail on that. There are also other issues which are, people are so focused in the opportunity to work on something that they love that they become oblivious to everything else. So, for instance, someone was working on a lousy job where they work like 10 hours a day and receive the minimum wage. And then they go, I'm going to start a startup. I know I'll be working 10 hours a day and getting minimum wage, but I'll be doing what I love. And then people start hating what they love. And they never want to do that. And that's a big issue, especially in games. There's a lot of industry burnout because people don't deal well with a lot of crunch. There's a lot of crunch because most of that has to do with the lack of project management skills. But there's a lot of burnout. And that's not good. That's not good in the long run for you. And if you're starting your own thing, you should be enjoying it. If you're not enjoying it regularly, then quit. It's not worth it. Because in the long run, it will bite you back in the ass. Okay? So going from a situation that you don't like to the same situation, but you're doing it yourself, and you're losing your security and everything else, it's also something that people then start to think, why am I here? Why did I do this? And then comes doubt, and people are no longer focused, and things don't happen. A more specific thing that I like to consider, don't take this for granted, this is my vision alone, is that you should, if you start a company, you should have a product that you can sell as a service. What do I mean by this? Unless you have something like you start a service where you get a lot of money that you can just be doing that service, okay. But if you're starting something new, don't focus on selling services. Unless you're really good and people come to you because you're really good and you are very famous and you can do that all by yourself. For instance, do you know how much an editorial photographer makes for a single shooting session for a magazine like Elle or Vogue? $500. You're going to have trouble in your life. 50 to 80K per session. Yeah, just a tiny bit above the 500 threshold. So a top-tier photographer goes shoot goes shoot in Bali. He's on the beach all day and shooting people, and then parties at night. And here, take 50K. Have fun. Don't spend it all at once. This is something. This is a service. They're not making a product, but they're making so much money that they can afford it, because if they don't make, unless they really like cocaine, if they don't make more editorials in that year, they're probably rigged for life. Because next year something will come up, and probably, or well, they have at least the space to actually plan things ahead. Whereas if you're sticking to like a project to project just to keep above water, then well, it's not good. And that's why I say you should have a product, because at the same time, if you're selling a service, try to build a product, because the product you can resell. It's like many companies, and we see this being done with an evil tone sometimes, which is cloning games. Many companies are good at cloning games, and some of those companies are good at cloning themselves. So they develop a game, and they make like 5 games, just like that one. Like, for instance, CSI. Why do you think there's CSI Miami, CSI New York, and all that? That's called content cannibalization. They put everything on the market so that no one else comes and does the same thing. You see that on TV shows a lot. So if you have something that you can reuse, try to do it. There's no problem with that. If you're writing a game, even if you're just making a game, try to make not the actual game engine per se, but something that is able to make that sort of game, so that you can, if you like the experience, you can create a better thing, and you'll have a lower cost of doing it. Also, if you build a product, like for instance in games, you are making a quest system or an inventory system. If you're doing it in Unity, why not sell it on the asset store? People will buy it. You know, trying to get the most of what you are already doing or what you already have to do, and diversifying. It's like what people say when you're investing. Diversify your investment portfolio. Don't do anything exclusively on one place.
All right.
So, okay, guess we're done.
So, thanks a lot, Tiago.
Thank you for the invitation.
And, yeah, very welcome here anytime. So,
Thank you.
maybe.